Welcome to Mind Over Matter. Today it's a pleasure to have Patrick Cammarata, who is the principal of the Norwood Jr. High School, soon to retire, a great loss to the community. Today we're going to talk about adolescence and everyday stress and then some. So maybe we could start with your sense of what kind of stress are adolescents under today.
Well, it's interesting that you bring up this point. We had talked about this before, Dr. Sigel. And from my perspective, youngsters at the age level that I've been dealing with for 35 years, I'm under a variety of stresses. For example, the most recent one that is probably the most highly publicized would be the MCAS test. Mm-hmm. Those tests that have been around for 3 years or so do weigh very heavily on students. And the vast majority of students are very responsible in their work in school, and they take these tests very seriously. And with the constant media blitz, especially the month or two before the testing takes place, then this type of stress weighs very heavily on students. So parents should be aware of that kids are attempting to cope with the varieties of tests that they have to take and the results. And of course, if they don't pass the tests in grade 10, even though they're given 4 more or 5 more opportunities to pass it, it's still the trauma of passing that test in grade 10 in order to get a high school diploma. So that's just one example of it. Certainly the pressures that they have in athletics, students, especially in the town of Norwood, do participate in athletics, and there were quite a few that do. There is that competitiveness from Little League right through high school or Pop One or whatever the case may be, soccer, variety of sports. Family pressures to be successful in school, to be successful on the ball field. These are all types of stresses and pressures that kids at this age level are under.
Worse today than, say, 25 years ago or when you started out?
I'd say much more so, because today it's a much more organized type of activity for kids. When I was growing up, you'd play stickball in the street. Mm-hmm. When I was growing up, you would organize games yourself at the local field. Today, everything is done for them in an organized fashion, and they all want a uniform. They all want to participate in that competitiveness right away. Mm-hmm. So yes, I think there's much more stress for them at this particular time than it was 25, 35 years ago, very definitely.
Okay. So let's go back, like the MCAS. Say I'm nervous about them. I'm one of your students. What do you see, or what am I doing that lets you know that maybe I'm kind of a nervous wreck about the MCAS?
Well, some students react differently to certain situations. Certainly students will complain that if they are struggling in a particular academic mm-hmm. area, that it isn't fair that I have to do this, take this particular test. Other students might just tighten up and clam up, so to speak, and not verbalize about the situation. So there's different ways and different mannerisms that they handle it. But the vast majority of them realize how important that particular test is, or that series of tests, the series of tests are for them to be successful in. And as a result, they certainly focus on that during the course of the year. The teachers bring it up, the parents bring it up, the Department of Education constantly is bringing it up, the media is bringing it up. So all of these forces are playing upon them during the course of the year, so they are very aware of this. And again, some people handle it, they're very verbal about it, others are more internal with it. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of difficult to figure out on a particular, to say, here's how a group of students handle it, but you have to really deal with it on an individual basis. And the teachers try to hit it on a positive note that, look, do your work in class, be successful in the classroom, you'll be fine in the test. And that type of approach, for most kids, works. And as a result, you see the results in most of these suburban communities, the results are acceptable, and certainly the students will end up passing the test in grade 10 and are fulfilling their obligation for a high school diploma.
So let's say, just for discussion's sake, that it's a third, a third, a third. A third cope with it well, a third of it cope with it, with some degree of anguish. But a third of them really worry a lot about it. What are you likely to see from that last group?
From that last group, you may see students who become very agitated in class when they're doing well in an examination, that they may not have been that type of a student 4 or 5 years ago in school. But now when they see themselves, when they see getting closer to that examination, for example, in the spring, they become much more agitated in the classroom when they're not as successful as they had been in the past. And so this type of approach, this is why teachers are constantly aware of what's going on, and constantly are dealing with them. And that's why it's so important, especially in our business, to have specialists, school psychologists on hand to talk with kids, to communicate with them, to get them to open up about their feelings and their anxieties, and get a chance to express themselves, because students at this age level, they don't verbalize as much as we think they do. Many of them internalize as opposed to verbalizing their feelings and frustrations. So that's why it's so important that school systems have psychologists on hand, and we do in Norwood. We're very fortunate that we have, just in my building alone, two school psychologists who are there to help them deal with this, as well as their guidance counselors. So we have a variety of specialists there to assist them.
There's enough of a system to sort of identify these kids, even if they don't self-identify?
You have the most important identification comes from the home. Parents, and the vast majority of them, are very responsible and observant about what's going on in their home, see these things. They're encouraged to call the school, speak to the counselor, speak to me, speak to one of the adjustment counselors, and if there are issues going on at home that the school should be aware of, turmoil at home, for example, or issues of illness at home that the school should be aware of, most parents will bring this to our attention so that we know and we can adjust our workings with the kids, as opposed to not knowing anything that's going on, and then something happens and, well, we should have told you, but we forgot to tell you, or didn't want to bring it up, and so forth. So most parents are very good about that. They'll bring it up. But that's the key. The key is the home. This place is nothing more than an extension of the house. That's how I view school. And what goes on at home is carried over into the school.
Are you unique, do you think, in that dimension?
No, I think all schools are basically extensions of the home. And the way the child acts at home is the way the child acts in school. If there's frustration or anxiety going on in the home, you're going to see that in the school system and in the school in general. But other than that, you know, we count on the parents to be the supportive ones, the ones who can find out for us where the issues are, and then to make us aware of them, and then provide help for them. We have all sorts of other services within the community to help them out as well. So this community is similar to many other communities that have services within the community to help out. We have outreach workers in the community. We have a youth coordinator, Maureen Kenny is her name, and she's there in the building on a regular basis and assisting us as to what's going on in the town. She helps us, and we help her. So it's a team effort.
The families have gotten the word that their input is welcome?
I would hope they have. We try to communicate with the parents as much as we possibly can through newsletters, through meetings, and so forth. And most parents are well aware of what's going on in the home, and are very concerned about how their child is doing in school and adjusting in school. And if they see some problems, most parents will get on the phone and they'll call and either set up some time to come on up and talk about an issue going on at home, or just make us aware of something that there's a potential of happening in the house, so we're aware of it. So yeah, most parents are very responsible and right on target. You hear a lot of stories about parents out there that aren't fulfilling their obligation as parents or guardians, and that happens out there, there's no question about it, but it's certainly a minority. It's certainly not the majority of parents.
And when parents, and I want to get back to parents a little bit later on in the show as well, but when parents hear from you about a problem that their kid's having, do you find them generally responsive? Again,
It's hard to generalize. Yes, I would say I would generally find them responsive, but there are parents who become defensive. What do you mean? You know, I don't see that at home, and so forth and so on. And you try to tell them, look, this isn't us versus them. This is a team effort, and we got to be working together as a team to try to help your son, your daughter out. So when they hear that you're calling up and that you're not in a threatening type of manner, but calling up just to help out, to assist, to provide service for them and for the kids, then that edge comes off very quickly.
Mm-hmm. So they get the message that the school is really a kind of an ally, effort?
We like to think that they do. We work at it very hard, right from the elementary school right up to the senior high school. We work at it consistently, that we're out there to help, to assist students. Yes, we have rules, we have regulations, we discipline students when they step out of line. Parents know that, students know that, everybody knows that. But we're also in the business of dealing with kids because they're our primary responsibility, and the welfare of the kids is the most important aspect of school that we deal with. Everything else is secondary. Curriculum, athletics, everything you can possibly imagine that happens in school is secondary to their welfare and their safety in the building. That's how we view it.
Now back to stress, you mentioned athletics, and you sort of suggested a difference between your time and their time, more organized, et cetera. Could you comment on that?
Well, let's use an example of hockey, which is a sport that is very popular in the town of Norwood, has been for many, many years. They've always played on a competitive level. Hockey is a sport that is expensive to participate in for parents. It is a costly sport. There's ice time, there's equipment, there's driving the hockey player to and from the rink at odd hours, certainly odd hours. And when their son or daughter is not getting the ice time that somebody else is getting, then you get the frustration level that peaks in here. And that's where coaches play an important part in trying to explain to parents, look at, I realize that your child might not be getting the ice time the other person is getting, but we try to make this thing as fair and equitable as possible. But that's where parents can get frustrated, because when the cost factor comes in, that's when the anxiety and the frustration kick in as well. And when parents personalize everything with their children, you do, I do, we personalize situations with our kids, and we sometimes have blinders on when it comes to athletics. And we think our son or our daughter is just as good as the child next door or down the street, whatever the case may be, or better in many cases. And we can't understand why she isn't the starting guard on the basketball team and he isn't the starting quarterback on the football team, and things of this nature. And it weighs heavily on parents. And most parents adjust to it, but some parents just have to step back and look over the situation and realize that athletics serve a purpose. And the purpose is not to play in the NHL or for the Boston Red Sox or for the New England Patriots, because that doesn't happen statistically. People just don't play professional sports statistically in terms of the number of kids who participate in the country. And so when people realize that there's a purpose for these, they teach kids organizational skills, they teach kids how to cope with situations, they teach kids how to lose, they teach kids how to win.
We'll take a break, but I think the coping part I'd like to get back to
Sure.
after the break, because I think that's very important. How are kids coping?
This is me. And my mom and dad. And my big brother Alex. And Jack. This is the day I learned that sandals got their name from sand. That jellyfish aren't made of jelly. That stars don't just come from the sky. That the ocean is bigger than all of us. This is the day we all got to forget I was sick. This was my wish.
Some tragedies don't have to happen. It kills more than 1,500 people every year and injures 71,000 more. It has been linked to health and safety risks, even premature death. And every year it costs the American economy billions of dollars in lost productivity. It's hard to overestimate the value of a good night's sleep. Today, 2/3 of all Americans don't get the sleep doctors recommend. 70 million have problems sleeping. But new treatments are helping millions get the sleep they need. So talk to your doctor or take our free risk assessment on the web at www.sleepfoundation.org. Sleep deprivation. It's real, it's dangerous, and it's more treatable than ever.
Maybe we ought to pick up with the coping part of it. I mean, how do you see kids today coping? And kind of maybe good news, but some of the situations where you feel, there's got to be some intervention, some help.
Sure. Well, first of all, on that area, stress is good. Stress is good for all of us because especially in our adult life, we're going to face stress. We're going to face stress in our jobs. We're going to face stress in every phase of what we do during the course of our life. And we have to learn how to cope with it. But it's going to be there. It is there. It's there for you every day. It's there for me. It's there for the producers of this TV show. It's there for kids. It's there for everybody. So to say that your life is stress-free, well, that's just inappropriate because it just doesn't exist. For kids and for adults, but specifically with kids, rejection is something that is so traumatic for them. I have never met anybody in my life, an adult or a youngster, who accepts rejection. Nobody likes to be rejected. And being rejected in the classroom with a bad grade, being rejected at home with a negative comment from a mother or father or a guardian, being rejected on the baseball field, all of these areas really wear very heavily on a youngster. And this is something that people have to be very cautious about. Parents specifically in how they talk to their children. When the bad report card comes home, when the bad test grade comes home, you give two choices. You can yell, you can scream at them, you can threaten them, you can tell them they're going to go to their room for a month, and all of those things, of course, just don't work because the child has turned you off. The most success with the child comes with a moment of reward by complimenting them on a situation. And then they're listening to you for 5 or 10 or 15 seconds, and then you try to get your point across. So coping issues are very complex things to understand, but parents have got to really step back and understand that they cannot be speaking negatively to their kids. It doesn't work by calling them names. It doesn't work by comparing them to their older brother or their younger sister. Well, your younger sister got a straight A in math when she had that teacher, and now you're getting a C. Well, there's just two different people you're dealing with. And kids look to their mothers and look to their fathers and look to their guardians as the end-all and the be-all in their life. They really and truly do. And if teachers, who are an important factor in their life, the parents and the guardians talk with them, talk to them, and talk down to them, and treat them in an embarrassing fashion, it just serves to degrade that person's image of himself or herself. And then you have the situations where they turn to other means of gratification.
Okay, before we get to that, let me just go back. Do you think that kids going to school, I mean, you've seen lots of kids, not stress-free so much, but how many kids go to school, would you say, who aren't sort of so rejection sensitive, or put it in my jargon, have their self-esteem intact?
The vast majority of them, when I see them during the course of a day, feel very good about themselves, because I think the vast majority of parents and guardians out there, and I use the term guardians a lot because we have a lot of boys and girls who are under the care of a guardian, who aren't living with a mother or a biological mother or biological father. And I see a lot of kids who feel good about themselves because you see a lot of parents, and once you meet them, you know exactly why, that treat their kids in a very mature manner, but treat them in a very positive fashion as well. The ones that you see sort of isolated by themselves, who are very introverted, aren't talking to anybody, you can just see, have a bad image of themselves. Those are the ones that we really get concerned about, and those are the ones we are always watching and making sure that we're providing some sort of services with them and working with the parents and guardians with them, and trying to get them to understand that you've got to constantly praise them for what they do, no matter how insignificant it may seem to you, what that child has done at home. Praising them might mean so much to them that they haven't heard it, especially in a long time. So you got to really focus in on that.
You're able to identify some of those kids who you think are coming?
It's not that difficult to see the student who needs that type of support service. It really is not that difficult.
If you're looking.
If you're looking. And this is what teachers are constantly being trained to do. Some are better at it than others. There's no question about it. Others may have had that incident situation in their own lives, so they know what to look for. All right, and maybe have had it in their own families, teachers have had, so they know what to look for. They know the signs out there of kids who are looking for some sort of an attention and are some sort of attention or having a problem. So and plus we spend a lot of money on the professional development programs for teachers that, involve curriculum, no question about it, but also involve helping develop positive images for kids as well. So it does feed off itself, but it goes back to the home. It goes back to the home, and the vast majority of kids come from well-structured home situations, and when you see them in school, they're confident. Yeah, they get down and they blow a test in English, but they back up the next day. It's the one that blows a test in English and takes a fit in the classroom and is yelling and screaming to a friend at a locker. Those are the ones we have to be working with, and those are the ones we have to be conscious about what's going on.
Okay. Now, maybe it's the piece of the elephant that I feel, but I do see a lot of kids where their self-esteem is not very much intact, and I guess it's reassuring to me to know that maybe at school teachers are on the lookout for that. And I guess I'm asking, do you think those kids want the teachers to know that they're bringing with them a lot of heartache, worry, concern, whatever it is?
I think kids in that situation, many of them will confide in a teacher. Many of them will tell them their tales of woe, things that are going on at home, the way they've been treated, how they feel that their mother is favoring the older brother or younger sister, whatever the case may be. And that's when the teacher has to react by bringing in one of the specialists, bringing in the guidance counselor, sitting down with them and say, look, why don't you get some time to get the mother or father in here? Let's sit down with them and tell them what the child is telling me, after school, when she's there for makeup or when he's there for makeup night. And we'll go over these issues. Maybe the parent isn't aware that they're doing this. Maybe the parent isn't aware that the child is feeling this way. Kids have a great ability to cover up things and put on a facade, but in reality, things aren't as polished as you may think they are. So the sharp teacher, the one who is constantly focused in on these types of situations, will get a hold of a specialist, will get a hold of a counselor, and try to set up some time to communicate with the parents, because communication is so important.
But do you think some of this is uniquely you? I mean, you're widely known as an excellent administrator. That's no secret. So obviously the teachers mentor with you. Do you think some of it is uniquely you, or do you think it's more universal?
I'd like to think it's more universal. When I approach a situation, George, with parents in a situation like that, I will say to them, look, I'm not talking to you as a principal. It's easy for me to sit behind my desk and tell you what to do and what not to do in raising your child, but I go home to my own set of issues, just as you go home to your issues and everybody else goes home to their issues. I'm talking to you as one parent to another. And when you put the parent on the level of a parent and you're talking to them as a parent and not the leader of the building, the principal, whatever you want to refer to it as, from a disciplinary issue, or from an authoritarian issue, then they become more relaxed and they become more acceptable to some of the comments that you might make to them. And when they feel that you're not trying to put them down, but they're trying to provide help for them in helping out in dealing with their youngster, then the vast majority of parents will say, thanks very much, and I got to sit down with my husband. We got to talk this thing over. We got to find out why he's acting like this at home. Maybe there's issues going on at home that they're not even aware that the child is involved with. So, It goes back to that root, George, being the home, being the focal point of what's going on.
Okay, but let me give you two, they're correct, but I'll disguise them, and they have nothing to do with Norwood. One situation where these boys very badly bullied and then beat up another kid. The parents of the aggressors were furious at the way the school handled the situation, not at their kids for having aggressed. Another kid tells me that he really feels that the teacher is very antagonistic toward him and that he doesn't feel that the teacher really wants him to succeed. Just a brief comment on those two.
Bullying, George, is a huge issue in public education today, and at this level, at this age group, it is tough. There's no question about it. Identifying it, trying to support the kids who are being bullied, and more importantly, even dealing with the kids who are doing the bullying. Why are they doing it? Were they bullied earlier in their lives? Are they being bullied at home by an older brother or sister? So there's so many avenues that you have to approach with this, but it is a huge issue. We just put on a program in March, April time period run by the District Attorney's Office specifically on the area of bullying. We brought out two assistant district attorneys, we brought out somebody else, a probation officer, one of our adjustment counselors, and we brought down one of the classes. We try to do it in as small a group as we possibly can because you get more effectiveness, I think, that way. And we went over these issues, a scenario that's just as you brought up, only a bit more specific. And how do you see this happening in the school? And you can see a lot of kids going, yeah. You see it happening in the community, yeah. You can see them nodding their heads, yeah. And I know somebody who fits into that framework. And we have to constantly provide communication to these kids. Why are you doing that? Why are you treating somebody like that? Why are you making fun of somebody's ethnicity? Why are you making fun of somebody's race? Why are you making fun of somebody's religion? Do they do that to you? And these are all the issues. It's a very complex issue. We have a program that we're running with Caritas Hospital, and we meet, the principals meet on Fridays during the course of the year, and that's one of the big subjects that comes up from some of the parents on the board, bullying at the elementary level. It just doesn't start when they get to grade 6, but it feeds up certainly into this grade, into the middle levels, into the 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. That's a tough age group. So yeah, it's a huge issue. And when you have that second point you brought up about the uncaring teacher, the negative teacher, hey, you got to get them out of the business. It's like any other business. You have poor doctors, you have poor lawyers, you have poor teachers. And you have a method now to get rid of them. It's a lot easier to get rid of them than it has been in the past. And good principals and good administrators will take and effectively put them out of the building because they're doing a service to nobody. They're doing a disservice to kids.
We'll take a break, but I think that's a good point to return to because I think it's really quite compelling.
Sure.
Thank you.
Have you noticed that no matter how careful you are at saving money, somehow it always seems to get away? Is it part of a larger conspiracy? Or is it that you aren't putting your money in a safe, secure place? Perhaps you should be buying new U.S. savings bonds. For as little as $25, you could be earning competitive rates. And what could be safer? You can even get them indexed to inflation. And with the new Easy Saver plan, you can purchase new U.S. savings bonds automatically from your checking or savings account. You choose how much and how often before they get to it. The new Easy Saver plan for U.S. savings bonds from the U.S. Treasury. Keeping your money just got easier.
For people who have to deal with the harsh realities of life, there is hope. There is Volunteers of America. Volunteers of America has been rebuilding lives and restoring hope to people in need in communities across the country for more than 100 years. Volunteers of America is one of the nation's largest nonprofit charitable organizations, providing services for children and youth, the elderly, homeless people, families, and many others. We serve the emotional, physical, and spiritual needs of more than 1.5 million people a year. Find out how you can help. Call 1-800-899-0089 today. Volunteers of America. There are no limits to caring.
I think maybe bullying is worth a little more time, because I think it clearly suggests a kind of a climate within the school, and I think, as you said earlier, and I think it needs to be stressed, the kids need to feel safe and comfortable in school, or there can be no learning. So maybe bullying. Could we talk a little bit more about it and what your interventions have been to date? You mentioned the principals get together, and that's been a focus. You did a training for some classes. What else?
Well, George, it certainly is a big problem. In fact, it's so big that it's been recognized not only on the state level but on the federal level as well, because they know.
I didn't have my microphone on. Go ahead.
That they know that not all, but some of these instances of terrible violence that have occurred in the public schools over the last several years, they relate it back to youngsters who have had enough. They can't take anymore. They've been picked on to a point where they react violently. So the object from the federal and the state programs is intervention to find out, what's going on in the schools, what's going on in the community, because it's not an isolated area. Things don't happen specifically in a school, such as an Norwood Junior High or any other school in Norwood or any other town. They just don't start and end there. Oftentimes they're carried over. They're carried over from the community, from a social event that may have taken place in the community over the weekend. Monday's a tough day. Monday's a tough day, especially if there's been a dance in town. At the Civic Center, for example, where so many kids are there. You have issues that carry over into the school on Monday. Schools are common meeting areas for kids. That's really one of the few places in the community where they all are together for a long time.
And supposed to be.
And supposed to be. So, and there's where all of these frustrations, these anxieties, so forth, come out. Whether it be a comment that you made, whether a comment that he said, that she said, and everything gets blown out of proportion, and name-calling becomes a prominent issue. These are the things you have to deal with, and deal with as quickly as you possibly can before they blow into a situation where you have an altercation, you have a fight, you have something more serious taking place. So yes, it is a major problem in all schools, and especially at this age level, where they're transitioning from an elementary to a high school, and for that 3-year period, the middle level, that the term comes from, they're starting to feel their way around. Some of them can handle the situations better. Others have been being picked on since they were younger. Now there's more kids, and they're picking on them even more so, and they just can't take it anymore, and they react by either fighting or swearing or being more aggressive. And you see it in the home, too. The home situation the parents will see this in the home as well. Kids saying, I don't want to go to school anymore, Ma. I just can't take it anymore with all of the remarks that are being passed about me in school. She's saying this about me to a friend of mine. He's saying this about me to somebody, and it's getting back to me. And so that's a type of bullying. It's a very indirect type of bullying, but it's certainly a very hurtful one, and one that takes place. It's not the classic bullying where somebody comes up and says, I'm going to get you after school, that type of idea. It's much more sophisticated than that.
Wow.
Much more sophisticated than that. And when you have a school population of 900 students and you have a professional staff of 70, the opportunities there to see this happening are very discreet. You don't really see these kids are very sharp. It could be in a lunchroom. It could be in a bathroom. It could be in a locker area. It could be in the locker room in the gymnasium area of the building. So on the bus. when there's just one adult on that bus, and that's the driver who's trying to keep their eyes on the drivers are trying to keep their eyes on the road and just get the bus safely to the
So
destination.
you're saying that really prevention is your best hope for
There's no question about it. We constantly are asking the parents to let us know what's going on. Tell us, because we don't have a crystal ball in front of us. We can't make a determination unless we know what's going on. And when we do, we try to react. Are we successful? Sometimes. Are we not successful? Sometimes. We have started a program this year that's been in effect at the Norwood High School for a few years, and it's been very successful in peer mediation. And we spent over $5,000 training a group of boys and girls who, along with teachers who have been trained in this peer mediation program, which is a national organization that trains them, to try to settle their differences among their own group, among their peers. And we had some very, very successful program situations with it. Some were not successful.
This is at the high school?
This is at the junior high now.
At the junior high.
We have it at the high school. We brought it into the junior high this year. We could have done it earlier, but it was a money factor like everything else, trying to get the money to train the students. It was a 3-day training session for the students. We had 2 teachers who were already trained in it. We trained 2 more teachers. So we had 5 teachers trained in it. And now when there's a situation where kids are having confrontation with other students, I'm not talking about violent ones, I'm not talking about fist fight in a corridor or something else like that. That doesn't go to peer mediation. But we have a situation where students are making inappropriate remarks to a student is making an inappropriate remark to another student. Why are you doing that? Well, sometimes they don't want to talk. Oftentimes they don't want to talk to an adult, but maybe they'll express themselves in front of their own age group.
So these would be situations where there's a witness? I mean, because it obviously can't be just your word against mine.
They have to agree to go into the peer mediation, both of them. They have to agree, and of the cases that we had this year, all but 2 agreed to go into the peer mediation. And the teachers are on the outskirts of it, and it's very low-key. They don't even let me know when they're going to do it. They'll do it during the school day, and the students will have a team that comprised of a variety of students. We just don't take the academically talented students and they're the only ones on the peer mediation team. We have a range of students, we have a range of gender, we have a range of grade participation on the team, so that everybody who's participating in it feels comfortable. And it's a good start, because kids now can air their gripes, their grievances to other kids, and other kids respond to them by saying, well, why did you do that? How did you think, what would you think was going to happen when you called him that particular name? Did you think he was going to react to you? Was he going to, start yelling back at you? Try to get them to think about what they did about being inappropriate. And as I said, it was successful. It is successful at the high school in our first year of doing it. Was this year, and we did find it to be very successful, and we're going to continue it next year.
So who sort of brings it to the attention of the proper people to get that ball rolling?
Oftentimes, if the issue kicks into the administration, the vice principal and or the principal make a decision. Look, this is a perfect case for peer mediation. Let's swing this right into Jim Forrest, into Ian Keegan, into Chris Armour, into Christine Carroll, and tell them, look, we got a case here. Let's throw it out. Do you think it's appropriate? Yes, we think it's appropriate. Okay, you handle it. Get back to us and let us know what happened.
And then the group assembles on an ad hoc basis to handle...
Then the teachers kick in. They handle the entire thing.
Do you need parental permission?
Nope. We will tell the parents what we're doing, but we don't really need their permission to do it. And the vast majority of parents anyway are saying, look, if you can resolve it, by all means, resolve it. I want to see an end to this as well.
You don't have some parents who say, not my kid, or...
No.
Really?
Not yet. We've only done it one. We're only doing this 1 year, but we haven't run into that situation. Also, we have a program in school started by one of our history teachers, and it's been very, very effective. It's an Image Plus program, we call it, and it's a total community involvement. We involve the police, the courts, community outreach, and the schools, and we deal with kids who are at risk. So for a student at the junior high who may be in trouble with the police over the weekend, maybe with alcohol, maybe with breaking and entering into someplace in town, when it goes to the courts oftentimes will allow us to get involved, and we will provide mentoring services for the student during the course of the day, help for them. We meet on a regular basis with the one or sometimes 2 assistant district attorneys at the school. probation.
So you keep them in school.
Keep them in school as best we can, yeah. And we meet, as I said, the team meets, and we discuss what we're doing for the kids, this particular kid, how we're involving the parents in it, how the courts are monitoring this, and we communicate among one another and constantly keep this at-risk student on the front burner so we don't lose them. And it's been very successful. The court, Dedham District Court, Judge McCallum, has been very supportive of the program. The probation department and the district attorney's office has been extremely supportive. In fact, at one of our meetings earlier this year, which usually start around 9 o'clock in the morning, the district attorney Keating just came to the meeting, just walked in unannounced, and knew there was going to be a meeting, sat down, just listened, and was just so supportive at the end as to you know, what we're trying to do and what we're trying to accomplish in terms of working with these at-risk kids. So these types of approaches are there. Do things still happen? Absolutely.
You're willing, though, to allocate resources to high-risk kids. Would it be fair to say there's a particular, I don't know, affinity that you have for these high-risk kids?
Yes, to a certain extent, yeah, there's a certain affinity that I have to them. I detest seeing somebody fail, somebody being left by the wayside, somebody being left out. It's very hurtful to me, and you could just see the pain and hurt in their faces too when they are not part of something, and they should be part of that. We run trips, for example. We run trips in the 8th grade to New York, Canada, and Washington, D.C. in the spring of the 8th grade. And we try to get as many 8th graders on the trip as we possibly can. And now some I don't allow to go on because of behavioral issues. Put that right to the side. But the vast majority of kids I do. But the ones who can't afford to go on it, we provide financial aid for them. This year we spent over $4,200 in financial aid, helping 8th grade boys and girls, helping their parents help pay for these trips so they can participate, they can be part of the group, they can enjoy it, they can just be just a focus of their 8th grade class. And we're very pleased that we're able to do things like that through fundraising activities, through help from the PTA, through money that we raise in different forms during the course of the year for the kids, dances, functions such as that.
So it's interesting because I think you have a wonderful perception that the trip is very important for the kids, but not making the trip is critical for the kids.
Very much so. And from a selfish viewpoint, you can hang that over a kid's head, saying to them, hey, look it, you're down this office, I've seen you too much, I don't want to see you again, you're putting yourself in jeopardy with that trip, you're putting the trip in jeopardy rather, and you know, let's get back on the groove, let's get back on the groove, get back on the track. And you pick them up, you dust them off, and you get them back on track. And that's a perfect opportunity to do that because you have all year. The trips don't take place until the spring. So you have all year. And believe me, it does have a very positive effect. And when they come back, we get a lot of thank yous from the kids to the teachers who run the trip, and a lot of thank yous to me from the parents who, thanks for allowing the kids to go on, thanks for taking the, you know, and they're risky. Look at the situation happened in Newton, that tragedy happened in Newton. When that happened, you know, my heart was in my mouth and thinking about, you know, yeah, could we run into a situation? Yes, of course you can run into a situation like that. Anybody possibly could. And we try to monitor it as effectively as we can, but, you know, we're fortunate that we haven't had any issues like that.
We'll take a break, and then we can get back to talking about carrots and sticks.
Sure.
Thank you.
One more correct answer, and you're the big winner in the Social Security quiz. And here we go. What will the Social Security statement tell you about your retirement? A, the date you should retire. B, how much you can expect your Social Security benefits to be. Or C, what you will owe in taxes.
I know this. I remember getting my Social Security statement in the mail, and I know it's B.
Are you absolutely sure?
Yes, that's my final answer.
Well, you're right. Congratulations.
Retirement planning is not a game. Watch your mail for your Social Security statement and use it to plan your financial future. Remember, Social Security should only be part, not all, of your retirement income. The future is in your hands.
My Youth for Understanding experience was the best thing I've ever done in my entire life.
If you want to learn a language, this is how you do it.
You have to live here and you have to breathe in the country.
You meet a whole new family that are willing to accept you and take you in.
I feel like, just like I'm a part of the family. Being involved with the family, living right at home, that has been my best learning experience so far.
You only live once, so you do it, try it, live it. It was great. It was incredible.
Go global.
Okay, carrots and sticks. Maybe we could talk a little bit about how you get kids going, how you identify some of the maybe really troubled kids. Perhaps you could comment a little bit on school violence, which has been a lot in the papers these last several months, unfortunately. And then maybe we could talk a little bit about what it is you might like parents to be thinking about as they are vigilant watching over their kids who then, go off to school.
Sure. One of the first things we do at the beginning of the year, both at the senior high school and at the junior high school, is to have class meetings. At our particular level, obviously, we'd have a 6th, a 7th, and an 8th grade class meeting. Usually
the whole class.
The whole class. Usually the first Friday that school opens up. And it's important at these class meetings that we emphasize the rules, regulations, and all of the other material. But the key to it is, for us, is the area of respect. And we dwell on that word throughout and weave it throughout the entire presentation. I make the presentation. Yes, I go over the handbook, which I'm required to do by state rules and regulations, and tell the kids that they're responsible to read this and have their parents or guardians read it and sign it and send it back and so forth and so on. But we try to weave that whole theme of respect throughout the entire class presentation, that we expect you to have respect for your parents, for your teachers, and for your classmates, because you expect that from your parents, your teachers, and your classmates, and therefore our expectation is that you give it back.
So let me be a devil's advocate. I've heard all that before, so I blow you off. Yeah. I mean, how do you must know that this is not the first time a lot of those kids have heard similar counsel. How do you get them, what's your trick? How do you get them to take it seriously?
Well, first of all, you're dealing with, at this meeting, you're dealing with 300 boys and girls in a room, so you're not going to, in an auditorium, so you're not going to get any reaction really from them in that type of a setting. They just don't react in that type of setting. And yes, you could look around and some people are paying attention to you and others are blowing you off. I'm not so naive as to think that doesn't happen. But when the incident occurs, or the incidences occur, and it's brought to your attention, and then you sit down with them, and yes, you have to go through your whole disciplinary issue and so forth and so on, albeit detention, albeit in-school suspension, albeit an external suspension, whatever the case may be. You put that aside. But once you resolve that aspect of it, which is really the easier of the two things to do.
That doesn't go away.
That doesn't go away.
There are
That's
sanctions,
there. I mean,
yeah.
Accountability is the key, not only in testing, but it's accountability in what you do in your life, even at this level. Then you try to work with them and get them to understand what they did was totally inappropriate. That remark that was hurtful, has it been made to you before? I heard, somebody said it to me a couple of years ago, I didn't like it, then why did you do it? And get them to open up about their feelings. And oftentimes when they do, they'll relate a similar incident that happened to them. And go back to that what we were talking about in one of the other segments on bullying. So many of the kids who do the bullying are kids who have been bullied before.
Survivors.
And they react to it. They were hurt, and now they have an opportunity to hurt somebody else, and they'll do it verbally. And so going back to what we were just talking about, yes, it's a situation where you try to get them to understand what they did was not acceptable. It's not tolerated at home, it's not tolerated in school. School is nothing more, as we said earlier, than an extension of the home. You don't act that way at home. You don't speak that way at home to your parents. You don't talk that way to
Oh,
the
you
teacher.
don't know that, though, do you?
There is sometimes, obviously, when, the kids react at home. We all have situations at home with our kids, and they lose their temper, they yell at the mother or the father. But that's handled at home. Parents sit down, wait a second. Now, some parents, they start yelling back at them, but they realize that doesn't work either. And they finally come to a point where they have to sit down and communicate and talk with the kids about what they're doing and try to iron out the difficult. Why is the child acting like this in the first place? So that same approach is used in the schools. And that's where your adjustment counselors and your guidance counselors come in, because they're able to sit down with them one-on-one in a non-threatening, non-authoritative situation. They view me and they view my vice principal as the authority in the building, but they don't view the guidance counselor, who is an advocate for the child. They don't view the adjustment counselor, who is an advocate for the child. They don't view those people in the same context that they view me, so they have an opportunity to open up to them. They may tell them why they did this or why they behaved this particular way.
So you make yourself easily available to a lot of these kids.
Well, it's a big part of the day. There's no question about it. I mean, we have to open up the building, so to speak, and once the building gets rolling, once the day starts cooking, so to speak, and it does very early during the course of the school day, everything's like a mini city with 900 students there. Then yes, we make time, we put everything aside, no matter what the superintendent wants paperwork done, no matter what you're supposed to be doing at a presentation for school committee that you're preparing for in a couple of days. You put that aside. You say, whoa, this is where the job is, what's the job's all about. Sitting down with that boy or girl, helping them out, trying to get them to understand what they've done, try to help them get back on the right track. That's what it is all about. You put everything else aside.
I can't even remember the name of my high school principal. I didn't have a junior high. I don't think I ever met with him. Now, I wasn't a troublemaker, but I was a troubled kid. My mother was dying throughout the course of my high school career. I'm not sure that any of my teachers do.
When you went to school, if you went to school where I went to middle school in Boston at Public Latin School, you saw basically a reverse type of approach that we have now. It was more of an us versus them attitude at those higher academic schools in the city of Boston back in the late 50s, mid to late 50s. And it was, okay, here's your 10 test grades, divide by 10, see you later, Mr. Sigel. There's your 92 in English.
Yeah.
It doesn't work that way anymore. It doesn't work that way because it can't work that way anymore. It doesn't take place in Boston like that, at Public Latin. It doesn't take place at Norwood like that. There's more to it. We realize that the kids are more than 10 test grades divided by 10 for a term grade. There's more to school than that for kids.
So what has brought about that shift, which is obviously very positive? But
well, I think through constant trial and error, we understand now that we have a responsibility in the school to do more. We are an extension of the community. We're not an isolated area. It's just not a place where kids come from 7:30 in the morning till 2:30 in the afternoon and stay after school for clubs, intramurals, and other activities. It's the focal point of the day for them. And we have to take the school and make the school part of the community. And if you do that, you can resolve a lot of these issues. If you keep it as an isolated entity, it's going back to the Public Latins and the Boston Englishes and that type of concept that existed for so many years, where the academic students survived very well, and the ones fell by the wayside left and went to another high school.
And nobody really cared.
Nobody really cared.
Yeah, there was just a sifting that occurred.
Right. And this is, I think, what's happening. Public education takes a lot of shots, and justifiably so. There's a lot of things that go on in public education that should and have to be corrected. But there's a lot of things that go on that are very positive. And we do not do ourselves a good service. We do not sell ourselves to the public as well as we should. We talk about all of the nice little things that go on at the elementary schools, and we talk about right up to graduation at the high school and things of that nature. But there's so many things that take place during the course of a day that we don't tell the public about. And we have to start doing this more and more, educating the public about what we do in the schools during the course of a day. It isn't just reading, writing, and arithmetic any longer.
So you don't think that necessarily a private school is by definition a better school than what Norwood offers?
Well, That depends on the individual, certainly. There are many fine private schools out there, and I'm certainly not going to say that Roxbury Latin doesn't fulfill an obligation to a certain group of kids. It certainly does. But on the other hand, a student can get just as fine an education at Norwood High School, Westwood High School, Dedham High School, as they can in the privates and the parochials. Just as fine if they want to apply themselves. The teachers are there, the programs are there, and the accountability is there. And the state is now saying even more so through this testing mechanism that they have implemented through the 1993 Education Reform Act. That's what it all backs up to. And they've poured billions of dollars into this program, billions of dollars. And I think you're going to see, at least in the suburban centers, you're going to see it paying fruition. The urban centers are struggling with it more, and that's going to be an issue for the urban centers to deal with. But I think the suburban communities are handling it very, very well, and you're going to see more and more positive results as soon as kids who have come up through the elementary level now take this test at the middle level and take this test in the high school and understand the importance of it and the significance of it. It's not going away. It's there.
I think it's a good idea.
I think it has a lot of merit to it, no question about it. I wouldn't hold the vocational schools as accountable for the test as I would the traditional comprehensive high schools, for example. At the Blue Hills Regional School, students are in school for 36 weeks as they are in the publics, in the traditional comprehensive ones, but they're in the shop area for 18 of those 36 weeks. Now, that means they're getting half that academic exposure than the kids in the comprehensive high schools, yet they're still taking the exact same test. The state should devise a specific test for students who are in the vocational schools, Minuteman, Blue Hills,
test.
whatever the case may be, albeit in their particular skill or trade that they're learning, whatever the case may be, but they shouldn't use that test. But putting that aside, yeah, the test has a lot of merit to it. It helps teachers to determine, you know, where the students' strengths and weaknesses are, and gives the teachers and the school system an opportunity now to work on those strengths and weaknesses. They give us a tremendous amount of material back, tremendous amount of information about your daughter, my son, tremendous amount of information. They tell us what questions the students did poorly in. They tell us how many kids in the class did poorly in that question, how many kids did well in that question. So we know where we have to emphasize and where we have doing well in it. So it's a lot of merit to it. And it's only a prelude to a national testing program that the federal government is going to put in very shortly anyway.
Really?
Yeah, it's there.
Okay. So maybe a comment, we got like a minute left. What would you counsel parents? What should they be looking for if they want to maximally kind of help their kids out in handling the stress at school as well as the stress off school?
I tell parents to talk with their kids. It sounds so trite, but it is so important to constantly talk with them, to take them out on a Saturday afternoon by themselves, you know, with a mother and a daughter, or a father and a son, or a father and a daughter and a mother and a son. Go to Friendly's for an ice cream. How are things going in school? How are things going, you know, in your last week? What are some of the problems you're facing? How are you getting along with your sister better than you were a couple of weeks ago? What are you doing? What can I do to help you? Talk to them. Encourage them. Don't put them down. Watch for mood swings. If you see them suddenly being reclusive, locking themselves in their room, listening to their music, not coming down for supper, whatever the case may be, these are signs that there's some anxiety with the child. You know, and then that's the time to jump right in with both feet, find out what's going on, and, you know, get as much help and support from the schools as you possibly can, and from the community too.
Okay. Well, listen, we do have to stop. We could go on for quite some time, I'm sure. I really want to thank you on behalf of the Norfolk Alliance for the Mentally Ill for being here today. Also, thank you for your many years of obvious, thoughtful, and dedicated service to the kids in Norwood. You're going to be missed, obviously. I like your replacement, but you can't be replaced, really. You're one of a kind. So best of luck, and thank you very much for being here today.
I appreciate the comment. Appreciate the opportunity to come with you this afternoon.
Thank you.
Enjoyed it very much. It did fly by.
Yes, we're done.
All right.